So I daily drive a Google Pixel 8 Pro, and even though some UI decisions that Android and Google takes are questionable sometimes, I mean, coming from a person who had been an iPhone user for almost a decade and only switched to Google Pixel to try out new stuff last year, there are some interesting choices as well. Just like this little toggle interaction. This you can find in the control center for Wi-Fi settings. As you can see, when the toggle is clicked, the thumb, which is the ellipse, moves to the other end, just like how a toggle behaves. But two things happen there. One is that not only does the track change its color from dark to light, but a certain gray halo appears around the end where the thumb lands. By thumb, again, I mean the ellipse. I was really impressed by this little interaction, and I thought to myself, could I recreate this in Framer? Turns out I could. And that's exactly what I'm going to teach you in this video, so you can also create this little cool interaction. I'm Omar from Omar on Framer, and let's get right into it. Okay, so I'm in this Framer project, and I've already set up a few stacks, background, and this little container to just have some contrast for the toggle itself. The first thing that we're gonna do is draw or set up the background or the toggle track. For that, I'm gonna make a frame inside this container. So pressing F, I made this frame. So this frame is gonna act as the background or the track for the toggle itself. So I'm gonna set it to a certain width, let's say 50. And I'm gonna turn it into a stack. So layout stack, and I'm going to set the distribute setting to start. This is an important step because setting the distribution setting of this stack to start is going to help us out in the movement of the thumb, the ellipse inside the toggle. So I'm setting it at start, and yeah, I think that's good. And then I'm actually going to remove the fill and remove any gap. And I need to set a border color for this stack first, because as you can see in the reference as well, there is a border for the dark variant of this toggle. So that border color is going to be 818181 is the fill, is the hex code that I have chosen for the border for this stack, for the background, and the border width is going to be 1. Now, of course, this toggle has to be rounded off. So what we're going to do is set the radius for this, set a certain radius for this toggle. But the radius is going to depend on the padding and the thumb that is going to be inside this toggle. So firstly, let us actually name our toggle container, let's call it, or toggle track. You can name it whatever you want. And then let us add a bit of padding. So let us add a padding of, let's say, 2. Okay, now adding this padding will help us have some have some gap between the thumb and the track. So now I should actually draw the thumb or the ellipse inside. So what I'm going to do is just add a frame of a certain size inside this frame. Let me select a size for this. So let's say that the width and height of this ellipse or this thumb is going to be 20 by 20. And I'm going to remove the fill. We're going to add a fill later. And since it is 20 over 20 now, I should set the height of the toggle track to fit, and then see what the height of this is going to be. Since it is 24, that means that the radius for the toggle track has to be 12. Why 12? Because to get a perfectly rounded pill shape, what you always want to do, what the best practice always is that whatever your height is for any frame, you take the half of it. If you take the half of it, you will have a perfect rounded shape. But the pill shape, if you can obviously achieve this by doing 100 radius, but that is just bad practice, and you don't want to overshoot it, because that later can be an obstacle or a hurdle when you're animating your frames. So let's set it to 12. And now I think we should have a fill color for this toggle track as well, like a background, which has a certain contrast with the background and the thumb or the ellipse inside it as well. So let's select that. All right, so this is the fill that I've chosen for this toggle track, which is the background for the toggle. And since this frame, which doesn't have a fill yet, is going to be our thumb, our ellipse, we should firstly make an ellipse. So it's a square frame right now, as you can see, and we're going to use the same rule for this. Since its height is 20, the radius for this should be 10. So 10 is going to be the radius, which is going to make it a circle. And once this is a circle, what we should do now is choose a fill for it. So let me choose this. So this is the fill that I've chosen for the thumb, the ellipse itself. So as you can see, our toggle is taking shape already. The important step here that we have to do is basically set up this halo, that we want around the toggle. Just right now, we have to set it up right now, and then later with magic of framework components and variants, we can animate it and achieve what we want here. So what I'm going to do is, since this is the toggle track, right, I'm going to wrap it in another stack. So I'm going to add another stack here and just do fit on both width and height and call it so let me name it toggle itself. So this is going to be our toggle, and what I'm going to do is, inside this toggle, set the z-index for the toggle track to a higher number than 0 or 1. So let's do 2. Why? Because the halo that is going to appear around the end where the thumb is going to kind of appear behind the toggle track, right? So that is going to get a z-index less than 2, maybe 1. So let us actually draw it. So what I'm going to do just inside this toggle frame is try to draw another frame here. Okay, so this frame, let me place it inside the toggle container that I have, is gonna go here. Now, let me choose a size for this that is bigger than our toggle track. So the toggle track has a height of 24. Let me choose maybe 32. Let's keep working in the multiples of 4 for the height. So 32 by 32. Okay, and then lock this in. So this, I should round this off as well, since its height is 32. Let's set its radius to 16. Now this ellipse is going to act as our halo. So the thing that we're going to do here is actually set its positioning to absolute. So once this is absolute, now I would want it to appear behind the toggle track. I know you can't see it right now, but you actually kind of have to move it. And the way you would move this is by these settings right over here. Let me choose, let's say, inside this toggle stack, which contains the toggle track, I want the toggle to basically peek out, right? So firstly, let me actually see it if I can. So its z-index is already set to 1. Let's recheck the z-index for our toggle track, which is 2. So if I wanted to peek out of the frame a bit, I should add a negative. I should add negative pin settings. So -4 here, -4 on top, and -4 at the bottom. And let's leave the rightmost pin. Now as you can see, the ellipse, the halo ellipse, is kind of trying to peek out, right? But the view is cut off, because what we should do is basically select the toggle stack and set its overflow to visible. Yeah, since now the overflow is set to visible, now we can see whatever's behind the toggle track. Now we need a fill, right, for the halo toggle as well to like give it the feel of a halo. So let's choose that. So this is the fill that I've chosen for the halo. You could play with the opacity or blur settings if you like want to get even fancier than this, but for me this fill is kind of doing the job. Now you can, as you can see, this kind of is taking shape of the interaction that we want, right? So when you slide this toggle to the off setting, you need this halo to appear for a little while, right? So the timings and the animation and all that stuff is going to be taken care of later. But what we want right now is basically, actually, let me name this frame halo. So now what we want is basically to create this, to create a component for the toggle, right? So what I'm going to do is create a component for this, create component, and I'm going to call the very first variant off. I'm going to call it off. Okay. I'm going to add a second variant. Okay. This is all, this will also be off, right? But there's going to be a certain difference. So this one is going to be off, right? But without the halo. So there will be no halo here. The way to do it would not be to set it to visible no, because that will bother us with animations. That will make the animations very instant and very very annoying. So what we want is basically to set the opacity of this halo to absolute 0 for off variant. Okay, and I'm gonna go to the off halo variant, of halo I'm gonna call it, and then set the opacity of the halo to 1 here. Now as you can see, this one will have the halo around it, this one won't. We have to add another variant here, which is going to indicate the on settings, right? So I'm going to click here and then I'm going to name this on. Okay, for on, what you need, of course, is the firstly, you need the ellipse or the thumb to be on the right hand side, right? You want it to travel from left to right once it is turned on. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to your toggle track and you're going to set the distribute to N. And this will nicely put it to the rightmost side. What you also want here are some color changes. So we're going to select our toggle track and we're going to change the fill color of this to, let's say, this light color. And we also need the same color for the border, or you can just set the opacity to 0. It will do the same thing. I'm just doing this, it doesn't matter. So now we have the on variant, right? And what we want here is a different color for the ellipse or the thumb as well, a bit darker for more contrast. So let's choose this fill to make it a bit darker. Okay, so this is the on variant, right? We also want a variant where you are switching between on and off, and once the toggle is turned to on, you have a halo appearing behind the on variant as well, as you saw in the interaction, the original one in the phone itself. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to add the on halo variant, and here I'm going to set the opacity of the halo to 1. But as you can see, it appears on the wrong end. It needs to be on the right hand side. So we're gonna choose, so what we're gonna do here is just reverse these settings to the right hand side and leave out the left side. So I'm gonna do -4 here, and it automatically does that. So now as you can see, our whole interaction is kind of set up, like the variants, necessary variants for our interactions are set up. Now what we want is to add the interactivity and the animations, right? So we're going to start with our off variant. What we want is then when this is clicked, it goes to the on halo for a moment, right? Like once it is clicked, you would see this variant right over here for a moment, such that it gives the halo effect, and then it settles on this one, right? Once it settles on this one, you would click this variant to go back to off settings, and this should appear for a moment, and then, cycle continues. So we're going to make the cycle here. What I should do is now arrange them in order of how they will appear. We're going to click on the off variant. We're going to take this little sign, this lightning bolt sign. We're going to click it, and this little line or connector will appear, and you're just going to drag it over to the on halo variant, and this will connect this variant to the next one. You want to just keep it as it is right now. As it is clicked, it instantly goes to the on halo variant, okay? And then what you want to do is click this and connect it to the on variant. But this time you don't want it to be clicked. What you want is that as soon as this variant appears, you want the next variant, which is the on variant without the halo, to appear, right? So you're gonna just click appear here. And the appear settings, and you want some delay in the appear settings, right? You want that little motion to happen smoothly and cleanly. So let us just do 0.6 seconds of delay right now. And then the on variant, once that is clicked, you're going to go off to the off halo variant and just do click and no delay right now. We are going to tweak this stuff in the transition settings. So more on that in a moment. So this connector for this one, okay, on to off, and then off goes back to the off halo variant goes back to the original off variant on appearing. Yes, the same as before. So on 0.6 seconds of delay, okay? And what we want here is to, well, actually, let us test it out, okay? So I'm gonna preview the toggle here. Once it is clicked, you can see that it has this interaction. So there's a problem here we see. You can notice that once we click on this off variant, it goes to the on halo variant, but the halo around the on variant kind of goes back, right? So notice here, this happens smoothly, cleanly. The halo appears and it disappears in that area, okay? But on the on variant, it kind of slides back to the left, which we don't want. So to fix that, we actually have to go back to this on variant, and this problem happens because the halo in the on variant, even though its opacity is set to 0 to make it disappear, it's still on the left hand side. We need to actually tweak the position of this as well, the same way as before. So -4 on the right hand side. Now it won't make that trouble. Now let's preview this. Yep, the interaction is happening nicely. Now, even though the halo is appearing and disappearing smoothly, the toggle itself, so the thumb, kind of has a movement that isn't really like satisfying me, or not really matching the original interaction. What we can do is tweak the transition settings from here to make that better. I'm going to click on this transition settings, and instead of basing this on time, I'm going to base this on physics. And let us increase the stiffness a bit. So let us do 500 maybe. And you can see the preview animation here, right? On 500, it looks like this. And let us increase our damping as well. So let us do 50 on damping, so that, yeah, this would look much nicer. So if I test it again, right, now it goes, now the animation is slightly slower, slightly more, faint and smooth, right? Yes. So there you have it. You have made a pixel-like toggle in Framer. Let us check it out on our main desktop frame. So Yep, works just as smoothly. There you go. Now you know how to make a Google Pixel-like toggle with a smooth halo interaction in Framer. You can actually grab the exact component from the link down below if you want to use it directly in one of your projects. Check out Framer if you haven't already via the link down below. In my opinion, right now in 2026, it's the best way to set up a website and launch it with ease without writing a line of code. Also, if you want this video helpful, please leave a like and consider subscribing or following me depending on the platform that you're watching this on, because I'll be posting even more tutorials and builds like this. You can also check out other videos on this channel if you want to learn more. In case you have any feedback or thoughts to share, do share them down below. If you have ideas about some other stuff that you might want to learn in Framer, please do let me know and I'll try my best to make a video on that and help you out. Otherwise, if you want to get in touch with me personally, you can do that through my X account, the link for which I'll be sharing down below in the description if you're watching this video on YouTube. That's it for today's video, and I'll see you next week.